Nick Walker out of the Mr. Olympia competition. Dave Palumbo here with an RXMuscle news update, Olympia update that is. Nick Walker out of the Mr. Olympia competition after tearing a hamstring. Evidently it happened, several days back, and he's been trying to nurse it back to health, doing all therapies on it, anything he can possibly do to clear up this injury prior to the Olympia. He's actually in Orlando in his hotel room, and I guess last minute decision, they decided that's it. His team wants to pull the plug. Good decision. Obviously, you never want to show up at anything less than your best. Tough emotional decision for Nick Walker, who obviously was focused on winning this year's Mr. Olympia competition, proving all the naysayers wrong, and taking home his first Sandow. You look at his face and you see the tears, in his eyes. That's 100% legit, because this guy gives his heart and his soul to the sport of bodybuilding. There's no doubt about that. The guy doesn't miss a meal. He doesn't miss a workout. He sacrifices a lot to be where he is today. I mean, he's already an Arnold Classic champion. He's still a very young man. He has absolutely the potential to win the Mr. Olympia at some point in the future. But what Nick learned is the same lesson I guess all of us have learned at some point. Kevin Levrone tore his pec after coming in second at his first Olympia. Flex Wheeler had a terrible car crash. Branch Warren tore his quad. I mean, there's been so many injuries throughout. Dorian Yates tore his bicep, still made it to the Olympia. Obviously not as big a body part as a hamstring. But in the scope of things, in the scope of Nick Walker's career, he'll be able to look back on this day as a defining moment in his character, because I know he's got a very strong character. I know he's going to come back stronger than ever. He might even come back and win the Olympia next year, because he's got the heart of a lion. However, it doesn't take away the sting, especially being a few days out from the biggest show of his life, to have the carpet pulled out from underneath his feet. That's just, it's not something that you really want to go through at any level, whether it be your first show at the Mr. Long Island or the Mr. Olympia. It hurts just as much. And we've all been there. We've all had, like I tore my quad in India. Obviously, I wasn't competing anymore, but still, it was a tragic type of thing. I've, had things happen to me, weird, crazy injuries. I was guest posing on stage. I tore a groin muscle. It put me out of commission for 6-8 weeks. You just never know what's going to happen. That's life. And I think he handled it really well. I think he came right on his Instagram and just put it all on the line. You can see the emotionality in his response and in his statement, and he's a real guy, and that's why he has such a great fan base. And I'm sure he'll probably have if he does go to the expo, because he said he would probably be there, he'll probably have the biggest line of anyone there, especially since all the other competitors will be competing. So Nick Walker's career is not over. This is a little stumbling block. If Nick wants to feel better about the situation, which it's very hard to feel good about what's going on, talk to Nathan DeAsha. That poor guy has had the worst luck of all time. Talk to Victor Martinez, who also, arguably should have won the 2007 Mr. Olympia, and then was going to come back in 2008 and probably win the Olympia, and he tore his patella tendon. That put him out of commission that whole year. So bodybuilding, as my father would say, like any sport, is an activity where injury is not just possible, it's impossible to avoid. So it's how you deal with the injury and how you overcome the pain that you're in that will define you as a champion or as a guy who just can't hack it. And I know Nick Walker has got the strength of 100 lions inside of him, so he will get through this. Prayers and healing energy out to Nick Walker. Bold statement he made on Instagram. He'll be sorely missed in the Olympia lineup for sure. I'm sure there's a couple of guys in that lineup who, obviously don't want to see anything happen to Nick, but are happy that he's not going to be there, because he would have beaten a lot of guys in that lineup. Hopefully I'll get to see Nick this weekend and give him a hug, because I know that he probably needs a lot of hugs. This is a tough thing to have to endure, especially because he's had such a, since he's turned pro, he really had a really straight trajectory in terms of on the way up, and he's just improved. But it's inevitable that something's going to happen. Mike Francois won Night of Champions, won the Arnold Classic, was moving towards the top of the Olympia lineup, and then he got colitis, had to have his colon removed, and that was the end of his career. So luckily for Nick, this is just a minor setback. We'll see him back, I'm sure, very strong next year. We might even see him at the Arnold Classic. Right now everything seems kind of down and out for him, but I know his character, and we all have seen how this guy loves to prove people wrong. In the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, he'll be back. Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle News Update.